Oh yes, I mean, again, it depends. People have different idea about this. This is a big kind of a chestnut in Buddhism. And so at the beginning, it started more that the consciousness comes out of the 5 factors, the 5 omnipresent factors coming together. And then you had a moment of consciousness within the body, of course. The body is part of nama as the factors, rupa is the body, then nama, rupa together, and then you have consciousness. That was the idea at the beginning. And then over time, you had a little more mystical ideas and different ideas. I mean, you have different, really different strands in Buddhism in terms of what is conscious. That's, you know, there is... but at the beginning, the idea was very much this idea of nama-rupa, that you have the 5 omnipresent factors coming together with the body, and then you have consciousness. So it was very much seen as arising out of conditions, and that consciousness, mindfulness was not above condition. And then various strands developed later which thought a little differently. So now you have very much these 2 different strands. One which sees more consciousness, mindfulness, with consciousness kind of this conditionality. And then the school which think that it's, you know, the moment you meditate at one point, you will reach something which is aconditional, which is transcendent, which is the all mind. I mean, I am not really of this school, so I cannot talk much about that aspect. But there is definitely 2 different strands about that one. I am more on the conditional trend than the other one. But that's also a big movement in Buddhism too. Again, you see, it will depend on the thought, and it will depend on the energy. You see, I mean, I just taught a 7-day retreat in Gaia House, a Zen retreat, which is fairly kind of intense. And it's obvious that at times, the mind is brighter. And if you have no obsessive thinking, like if you have not fallen in love before you got on the retreat, you see, so again, it depends on that. It depends on what kind of thought you have. I would say if you have light thought, and if you have enough energy, you will come back faster. But there is also the fact that sometimes the meditation happens by itself. And then you actually don't even have to come back because you are there. So again, but that you cannot keep all the time because it requires a certain level of energy. So to me, a lot of it is to do with energy, how much energy you have, first thing. Then the type of thought or feeling or sensation you are having, or the type of sounds that happens around. So again, if one of the interesting things is that often sounds can be bells of mindfulness. So that if you go away, generally the sound will bring you back. Unless you have a continuous sound, but even then, if you have a continuous sound, you can use it as an anchoring device, and that helps you to come back. But if you're tired and you have some obsessive thinking, then I would say you use a meditation to bring you back from it, because it's very powerful. So personally, I would say it's random without being random, because it's really generally according to conditions and according to when you are sitting, at what time it is, if it's what I would call your good time or if it's your sleepy time, and what happened before. Actually, one has to be careful with that question, because personally I would say every state in which you are when you meditate, you are meditating. But you can experience different types of meditative experience. Because sometimes it's like you're cranking up the meditation. And that's what you have to be very careful with the breath. That sometimes it's like, as soon as you become aware of the breath, then you're doing the breath. And it's very tricky not to do that with the breath, actually. And sometimes you really have the feeling that I am, in a way, nearly forcing myself to meditate. But sometimes you have to, because you're feeling sleepy, so it's kind of like trying to come back and be here. And sometimes it's more that the meditation does itself. Like you sit there and actually it happens by itself. There is an awareness of the breath, you know the breath, you feel the breath, and you feel that there is less, I am doing this. So the amount of I am doing this changes, again according to conditions, according to if you're sleepy or not, energetic or not, have lots of thought or not. And so I would say this, between on one side, the feeling of I am really doing the meditation and it feels a kind of nearly forcing something, to on the other side where it really happens by itself and you have really nothing to do, then you there is all different I would say also experiences of doing it a little bit, it happens a little by itself, you really feel the sensation gets a little too faint, and etc., etc. So I would say, but personally, I would say, when you, in a way, have made the decision to sit here and to try to meditate in whatever way you can in that moment, I would say you are meditating. But the way you experience it, it's back to the cultivation and the effect. The effect of it. You see, you don't always have the effect, what I would call feeling meditative. Sometimes you just feel like, you just have thought or you're sleepy. And in the old days, 100 years ago, meditation, the meaning of meditation was what we call contemplation now. And meditation, contemplation long ago was what we do in meditation now. So it's a little confusing, because you have these two words who mean different things. In the past, one meant you were reflecting on something, and one meant you were just sitting there, in a way. And now they've exchanged meaning. So now meditation means sitting here, and contemplation means reflecting. So maybe what you're saying is that you find it easier to contemplate, what we call contemplation now. Contemplation meaning that you bring a word up, like love, like peace, and that you contemplate that word. And of course, I'm not a teacher of contemplation, so I don't exactly know what people would do, and how they would reflect and things like that. So I think to see that what we're doing in meditation